So before we actually get into the video, I'm just going to show you what you guys will be completing at the end. It's just going to be a simple Apple clicker quest, It's nothing too complicated, but when I was watching my recording again, I realized that I, explained the quest really badly. So I just thought I should add this part, actually explaining what we're going to do with visual representation. So yeah, it's just going to be this quest. It's just an apple clicker. You click an apple and it spawns somewhere else. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you want to just copy paste these scripts, I am going to be creating a Discord server where I'm just going to be, pasting the scripts that I do in every video. So if you want that, it's in the description. You can join, copy, paste, then leave it if you want. Doesn't really matter. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I'm actually going to be showing you guys how to set up your first quest system. Obviously, we're going to be using a GUI also. So the first quest system is just going to be something really simple. The quest is actually going to be an apple clicker. So the player is just going to have to walk up to this area and click an apple. And when he does, it's going to spawn somewhere else. He's going to have to walk up to it, click it again. And then it's going to spawn somewhere else, and this 5 times, so he's going to have to click the apple 5 times. And okay, so let's get straight into it. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than anything we've covered, but I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible and explain everything along the way. So to start, you need to, place 3 parts. The first part is just a normal part, which you're going to rename quest giver. The second part is another part you're going to scale down and change the color, and this is going to be the apple. And the third part is the area, and for the area you want to go to size and scale it to 3130, and the position you're going to put it at 3000. Okay, and it's important you do that because we're going to be using these values for the random location spawn logic. So 3130 for the size and 3000 for the position. So now that that's all set, let's get straight into it. So inside the quest giver, you want to put a proximity prompt, and inside that you want to put a script. And before we work on the script, we're going to first work on the GUI. So inside started GUI, you want to put a screen GUI. Inside that you want to put a frame, and I'm going to rename this frame to quest. And this is going to be what tracks the quest. So I'm going to scale it about this size. This should be fine. And inside this, I'm actually going to change the color to a light gray. Inside this, you want to put a text label, and this text is just going to say if the quest is complete or incomplete. And then you want to put another text label, and this text label is going to show us how many apples we've clicked out of 5. So I'm going to rename each. This I'm going to rename to status, and this I'm going to rename to apples clicked. Alright, and inside the quest you want to put a local script, and this will be what handles the whole GUI logic. Don't forget to set your frame to visible as false. So okay, we set up the GUI. Now inside the apple you want to put a click detector, because we're going to want to detect whenever this is clicked, and for the area you can just leave it here. Now this is it for the setup, but we want to link this script to this local script. So just to do that, we simply need to add a remote event inside replicated storage, and I'm going to rename this to GUI. So okay, the whole setup is complete. We have our 3 parts. We have the GUI, the scripts, so we can get straight into the scripting part. The first thing you want to do is to define the event. So it's just game get service replicated storage, wait for child GUI. And whenever script.parent.triggered, we want to connect a function which just fires the client. And also don't forget, we have to pass the player argument whenever we're firing from the script. So just pass it to make sure everything works fine. Copy this line and go inside your local script, and we're going to define what the remote event does. And for now, all it does is just connect function. All it does is just put script.parent.visible to true, so we can check and see if that works. So whenever we interact with this, the GUI becomes visible. So that's the first part that's done. Now the next part is whenever we interact with this, we want one apple to randomly spawn at this location. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So obviously the first thing we need to do is to define the apple. So local oApple is game.workspace.apple. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a function that's going to spawn an apple. So just local function spawn apple. And this is going to be what allows us to spawn the apple. It's going to be a function. This just simplifies my life, so I can just call it every time I want an apple to be spawned. And it's good practice to, you know, handle everything inside functions. So in this, I'm going to define an apple, and it's just going to be the oApple clone. I'm going to put it inside the game.workspace. Now we're going to have to position it, and I'm going to explain how the position is going to work. So to figure out what the position is, we first have to understand how every axis works. Okay, so the red line, the x-axis, is starting at the origin of the red line is 30, because remember when we position this, we put it at 30, 0, 0. So the red line, the origin of the red line is at 30, and the whole size of this part is 30. So the red line is going to vary from 15 to 45. Okay, and that's it for the red line. For the blue line, the origin is 0, so it's going to vary from negative 15 to 15. And the red line, which is the y-axis, it's always going to, the green line, which is the y-axis, it's always going to be 1. Okay, so again, I'll repeat it. The red line is going to vary from x15 to x45. The blue line is going to vary from z negative 15 to 15. And the green line is going to vary from 1. It's just not going to vary. It's just always going to be 1. So, okay. Now that we have that in mind, we can actually position it pretty easily. You just do apple.position. And since the position takes 3 variables, it's going to be a vector3.new. And the x, as we said, is going to be a random number between 15 to 45. The y is going to be 1, and the last one is going to be a random number between negative 15 to 15. Okay, and we can go check and see if that actually works. So every time we interact with it, oh sorry, I forgot to actually call the function, so it's important that you don't forget that. Spawn apple, there you go. Now it should work every time we interact with it. As you can see, it spawns on a random place inside area. So now you understand how the position works, but you remember we only want to be able to interact with this once, and then the quest starts, and we can interact with it again once the quest is in progress. So to do that, we just add a debounce, but I'm just going to call it quest active, and it's going to start at true, and I'm going to put all of this inside an if statement. So just if quest active, then, and I'm going to move all of this inside. And don't forget to set quest active to false. So quest active equals false. This will allow us to interact with this thing only once. So let's see. As you can see, I can only interact with it once now. So okay, that's good. I'm actually just going to move this. And okay, now we have the apple spawn logic. Now imagine we're at a point in our game where the apple is spawned. We want the player to walk up to it, click it, and whenever he does, we want this apple to disappear and another one to spawn somewhere, somewhere else. So to do that, we have to define what the click does. So we just go here inside the function. We go apple dot click detector dot mouse click connect function, and the first thing we want to do is to destroy the apple, and then we want to spawn the apple again. Okay, we can go check and see if that works. So we interact with it. As you can see, every time I click it, it disappears and it spawns again. Now we need a way to actually count the clicks or the apples that we've clicked. So for that, we just define a counter, and every time we click it, we want the counter to go up by 1. Okay, Now this works, but this actually won't do anything, because what we want is we want the GUI to actually display the counter. So to do that, we're going to pass the counter argument. So every time we fire this, every time we send the signal for our local script to update the GUI, we're going to also pass the counter argument. So, okay. And then the counter updates every time the apple is clicked. So every time the counter updates, we also have to fire it, to fire the event again. So just, there you go. So what this does, basically, every time we're updating the counter, we're updating the GUI. So every time we're calling the event, every time we're firing it, we're updating the GUI. The first time we're calling it is to make it active, to make it visible. And the second time we're calling it is to update the counter. Okay? So the first time we fire the event, the first time, the counter is going to be 0. So with that, we can actually, start writing what the text will be. The first thing I'll do is just define both text. So local status is just script.parent.status, and local apple clicked is just script.parent.apple clicked, apple is clicked. And now we can put everything in an if statement. So if counter is equal to 0, then we want the status dot text to be status colon incomplete, and we want the apple clicked dot text to be click apples to begin. And remember, when counter is 0, this is the first time we're firing the event. This is before the player even clicks an apple. So this is the original text, or the text that we're going to start with whenever the GUI is being set to true, the GUI visible is being set to true. And then else if counter is anywhere between 0 to 5. So if counter is bigger than 0 and counter is smaller than 5, so just between 0 and 5, then we want the apple clicked dot text to be apples clicked colon, we're going to add the counter on 5. Okay, so we can actually, I'm just going to stop here and show you what this does. Whenever we're firing this, it says status incomplete, click apples to begin. We click the apple and it starts counting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's not going to update the 5 because we haven't defined what it actually does yet. So what I want is else if counter is equal to 5, then we want the apple clicked dot text to be just complete, and we also have to update the status dot text, that's going to be status colon complete. So okay, I think that's pretty it for the GUI. So just click, starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when we click the 5th one, status complete. Okay, now that's good, but there's also like a couple more things to do. Firstly, whenever we click 5, we don't want this to spawn again. So what you can do is just go here. This is what spawns the apple. So you just do if counter is not equal to 5, then spawn apple. So this isn't going to spawn it whenever the counter is equal to 5. And actually we can just go and check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not going to spawn it. Now, whenever the quest is done, we also want this to stop being visible after like a certain amount of time, and we also want everything to restart to 0 whenever we interact with this again, right? Because we want to be able to do the quest multiple times. So to do that, you go here in the if statement, if counter is not equal to 5, then spawn apple, but then we have to define what the game will do if the counter is equal to 5. So else if counter is equal to 5, then counter is equal to 0. And well, actually, you know what, I'm going to do another method. I'm going to set counter to 100. Okay, and I'm going to want to fire this. Okay, and you go here and you say else if counter is equal to 100, then what you want to do is you want the to task.wait 1 second, and you want the script.parent to be not visible to be false. Okay, so all we're doing is whenever the counter reaches 5, so whenever we've clicked 5 apples, we want the counter to be equal to 100, and whenever the counter is equal to 100, you're going to wait 1 second, and then the frame is going to be invisible. But then what happens? What happens is, well, firstly, we can't even start the quest again since the quest active is going to be set to false. So whenever the counter is equal to 5, we want task.wait, and 1 second quest active is equal to true. We want to set it to true again so we can restart it, and we want every time that we trigger this event, if quest active, we want the counter to be set to 0, so we can restart the counter to 0 again. And actually this logic should work completely fine, so we can actually test it. So we go 1 2 3 4 5, wait 1 second, it goes invisible again, and we can restart it. 1 2 3 4 5, complete, invisible. So as you can see, this works completely fine. It was just a method that I actually came up with it on the spot. The counter equals 100. You don't have to do it this way. I'm pretty sure there's another way to do it. I was planning on doing it another way, but then I just thought about this. You can do this. Like, you can just set it to a value that you decide, so you can actually track whenever it hits 5. It doesn't really matter how you do it. The only important thing is that it works, which it does. Now, before I leave you guys, I actually just want to make our GUI a little bit better because it's kind of ugly right now. So what I like to do here is I like to firstly change the font to a indie flower. I really like this font, and I like to scale the text to make it a bit bigger. Now, whenever it's incomplete, I'll just show you. Whenever the status is incomplete, I want the status dot text color 3 is equal to color 3 dot new 25500. So whenever the status is incomplete, I want the text to be red color, and whenever the status is complete, I just copy this. I want it to be 0 2550, and this is just green. Okay, and so now we've designed this. We're also gonna change this to indie flower again. Indie flower, where is it? Oh, indie flower. Scale it. Text scaled. And I'm actually going to make the background invisible. So background transparency 1 and background transparency 1. So okay, I'm just going to set the GUI to visible false, and I'm going to anchor this part because it's annoying how it keeps falling off the edges. So I'm going to anchor it, turn it to false, and I'm just going to check if everything works fine, and it should be completely fine. As you can see, status incomplete in red. Click apples to begin. 1 2 3 4, and then complete. So everything works just fine, and yeah, I guess that's it for this video. You've learned how to set up your first quest system. This quest is pretty simple, it's just clicking apples, but it was really fun to make. And if you understand like everything, like the whole steps that we did, I'm pretty sure you're set to do like other quests if you want. I don't know. The most important thing is that you just understand the logic. If you understand it, then you're good. And I hope this video, I explained everything well, even though it was pretty complicated. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you. Bye.